go ahead and keep us moving here. And first, I want to really acknowledge that there were a lot of people that put a lot of work into making this conference happen. And it would not have happened without our planning team. So I'd like to call our planning team up to the front here, Scott and Pete Bliss and Muniz. Nancy James at the moment, and Linda and Terry. And Steve and Mindy.
Scott, here you go.
I say we have a couple of small things now.
Ryan.
I'll take it away.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Ryan,
Yes.
you have two hands.
Yes.
If you
You
can,
tell me what to do.
they don't get
And
any.
you know where they're going, so how about? You tell me.
Once you get what you want, then you can barter with the neighbors for what you want.
Okay. Let's go, all right.
So all of this team put in a lot of work to get us together. Linda in particular spent a lot of time getting this location and going back and forth with our endless questions for them to answer. But most of all, Terry, this conference would not happen without you. From first, there was general consensus we wanted to have a regional conference. So for months, Terry would just gently remind me, "Oh, James, we want to have you up here too." I said, "Thank you for being on our
Come on
planning
up,
team."
James.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, oh, Pete already got started with that. Okay, you know, you were taking it over.
Like little cinders and the paper doll.
James, I have one at home, I'm sure.
I got, but I got two presents. And this one I got twice.
She gave me those gentle nudges of, did you really mean it about wanting to do a conference? Should we be doing something? Until we did assemble a planning team. And then I promptly went on vacation for, weeks at a time over the summer. And this team really put together the agenda while I was gone. But Terry really has just gone above and beyond to keep it organized and all kept together. So the mug was made by Roy Dybert, Mary's husband. He made a number of them when we had the conference in Rapid City, and therefore she had just a couple of them still left when I called her, and she brought that along. So very, yeah. So thank you to all of you very much for.
Do you want to be in a picture?
Oh, I'm not part of it.
That's good. You're outsourced.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all.
And for all of his jumping in for all of the technology, he also brought a lot of tech pieces along. We were joking at the end of the conference table, we'll open an electronic store together with all the things we brought along to make the conference work. So we have just a few parting thoughts for you. Originally, I was going to title this session, "Go Forth and Do Good Things." But it really actually seemed too easy because I know that you already are doing many good things, and it's been a delight to share a lot of those things during this weekend. But I want to take the opportunity to acknowledge and thank all of you too, not just our planning team, but all of you, and that also includes our planning team again, for taking the time to come here, for spending your own money to come here, for traveling all this way, and for really being present when you're here. I really just want to thank everyone for being a part of this. And to also thank you for all the many ways that you support CCL through your time, your energy, your money. Without you, I wouldn't get to do this job that I love, supporting all of you. And I feel that it really is the most impactful work that we can be doing together. So after I threw out that title, fortunately, Madeline Para inspired us with what she's done at the Great Lakes for closing comments for the Great Lakes Regional Conference. And then I recruited Brett, and I love that I get to do this with Brett, because I've known Brett since he first started the CCL chapter in Bemidji, and then slowly has continued to grow in CCL to be one of my beloved coworkers, and actually my boss. Or my boss's boss. Which hasn't changed how much I love it. We'd like to share with you a few thoughts to hold in your head and your heart as you go back home and re-enter your daily life and your local climate work. In many ways, these are difficult times that we're living in, and I know that I've had to battle a lot of feelings of despair and discouragement, and I would guess that many of you have too. We're people that have worked hard, many of us for years, and yet here we are, to try and head off the worst impacts of climate change, and yet here we are in a year unprecedented with high temperatures, mounting catastrophes, and it looks like it's getting worse, but we are people who persist. And I know that I have gotten a big shot of encouragement by being here with all of you. But how do we live in these times? You came to this conference, so I think that we have that in common, the determination to keep going. And I firmly believe that it's always possible to make it less bad than it would have been if humanity took no collective action to reduce emissions, to adapt, to sequester carbon. And one way I think of it is this: although there's no knowing how things will turn out, it's better for me, for the outcome, if I throw my weight behind taking steps to help us have a livable and more beautiful world, however small it may be compared to the problems we face. And I nevertheless persist in throwing my weight into proactive action. Another way that I like to think of it is this: who do I want to be in these times? And that's when I love to take a quote from The Lord of the Rings. And just before our South Dakota card departed, I noticed a tattoo on Carla's arm. It's actually a quote from The Lord of the Rings. And the quote that I want to share with you, she then said, "Oh, I have that in my front drawer. I'll show you the picture. I'll show you the picture in a moment. I wish it need not have happened in my time," said Frodo. "So do I," said Gandalf. "And so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them or for us to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us." So who do we want to be in this time that is given us? I mean, humanity at its best is really awesome. Creative, compassionate, selfless, courageous, and thoughtful, and I try to be that to the best of my ability. And if the worst happens and we all die in some apocalyptic climate tipping point disaster, I want to go out having been as good a representative as I can be of what it means to be human and working alongside all of you. So I use the word awesome on purpose. And those of you that were in my session yesterday morning got a taste of what I've been experimenting with awe. There's even a book about it, which now Brett has read and will tell us a little bit more about it, because one of the ways that humanity is awesome is that we write books.
Well, before even jumping into that natural segue, hello again, let's also give a big round of applause for the amazing work that Mindy. One of the terms that we heard recently on we have our the regional coordinator call that I think so resonates when I think of the work that Mindy has done through the years, and Paul, obviously, with Mindy and before Mindy, is culture building. I really feel like you both, and especially you right now, have done such a good job of setting that standard of being the culture builders for our entire region. So I want to acknowledge that as a core skill that you have, and I'm so honored to obviously share this together for this exploration of the book. So in honor of that, continuing on what Mindy set us up here to talk about for our final parting thoughts together, this is a book that Madeline read prior to her own retirement, and I would encourage any of you to also check it out after this if it really sings to you, and it will be what we're building off of for the final time together, because we love Madeline, and obviously a lot of us are here also for her, and want to also uplift and center her work and my inspiration every day here still too. So here's to you, Madeline. And the book is called Awe, The New Science of Everyday Wonder and How It Can Transform Your Life. Maybe it already is. And it's written by a author, Dasher Keltner, who is a research scientist. And essentially what Dasher and the team did was they tried to pursue, through kind of the work at UC Berkeley, this idea that was a gap in the literature, basically, where there wasn't a lot of peer-reviewed work or analysis done on really what awe does for us, both within our brains, within our community building, within our lives. And so they started with operationalizing it, kind of defining it as such. You can see here on the screen, the feeling of being in the presence of something vast that transcends your current understanding of the world. And what they found is there's actually a few kinds of vastness, all of which produce awe. And I'd like to, I guess, just before revealing the book's big thesis, poll the room. Anyone have any ideas for them of what fills them with awe, or what vastness you might think they would have encountered? Jen?
Like for me?
You sure? Yeah, just popcorn them out. Big themes.
Yeah, like, I look at the sky and the clouds and I think, what can I do to see on this mountain?
I love it. Perfect example. So kind of naturalistic kind of connection.
And then what's past the sky at night when you look out and say, I'm part of that?
Yeah, okay, kind of that big universal acknowledgement. Claudia, I see your hand.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the chart that she just showed us about CO2 uptake. I mean, that kind of new information is a whole new idea.
Yeah.
That really inspires me. Really new thinking.
Love it. Yes.
I'm going to take this a slightly different direction.
Please.
Some definitions, in fact, several of awe include fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we shouldn't be afraid of the fear of awe.
Yes. Or the awe that will come after the fear. Yeah. Or with it. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
I think one of the people that come from so much distance. They so much time. I love it.
You have just tapped into a moment of collective effervescence. Yes, and I love that you turned up doing that. That was exactly the moment that I think so many of us can kind of get those chills and feel too in our moments in life, Jeff. Thank you for modeling that. Well, we can think a lot about it, but what I'd love to do is, given our time, kind of cut to the chase. And so they basically did this qualitative study across many countries, collecting 2,600 stories from people in 20 countries with careful attention to diversifying the people that they talked to. And the key question that they asked was this: what is an experience of awe that you have had when you encountered an experience of vast mystery that transcends your normal experience of the world? So thinking about that yourself, what they did was they actually grouped them into 8 categories or groupings. They found that 95% of them fit within 8 of these groupings. And Mindy and I are actually going to trade back and forth, kind of walking through each of these. And as we share a brief story for each, I'd like for you to think about how that might apply to your ideas and experiences that transcend your own personal life too. But I love that the experience that the most frequently led people around the world to feeling awe was this: that other people had courage, kindness, and bravery that they personally witnessed and then could tap into in their own lives. And so throughout all that, just remember that you are being looked at right now by other people in your lives and already making that difference. So I'll pass it to you here, Mindy.
So the one that people most often, are maybe easiest to think of came up first, nature, you know, and for me, that's the vastness of nature. I think the Boundary Waters is one place. But also to the small of watching my cat stalk a mouse.
Here's to that. And the next one, again, kind of reorder these a little bit to go back and forth. Moral beauty is that, again, that inherent courage, that sense of bravery that we can tap into, that idea that each of us, I am so inspired and buoyed by the stories of CCLers throughout the country and the larger world, lobbying their governments from Kenya to the story of Jay Butera and the foundation of the Climate Solutions Caucus, to people making a difference by showing up to town halls and standing in for public meetings and presenting to people that they think may fall on deaf ears. Whatever it is, that's what Dashiell's team has called moral beauty, and you are all living embodiments of it.
Collective effervescence, which is when people really almost feel you could be in a crowd and you suddenly kind of merge into one. I actually have an example from outside of my CCL experience. I was at a demonstration at the School of the Americas in Georgia that had trained many military leaders from Central America that is also near and dear to my heart. We were walking in a circle singing and reading out the names of all of the victims as we placed crosses into a fence with their names on them. And just that feeling of the entire group moving as one and raising their voices in one manner.
It's really beautiful. Here's to that. And another one that we can all, I'm sure, resonate with on some point in our lives, music weaving us together. Singing a song that your Nana sang to you, to your kids, and hearing kind of her voice as you sing to your children. Hearing your wedding dance song 20 years later, realizing how much time has spanned by. Hearing the bellows of a pipe organ in the grand majesty of a cathedral and seeing somebody being able to engineer all of that movement together at once, playing a Bach fugue. You name it, all of those transcend kind of that musical awe that can inspire us.
Art and visual design. So art can be easier, but I think of architecture too, when like the Capitol Dome in Washington, D.C., with the Statue of Freedom on the top. It fills me with awe every time we're in DC and I pause to look at that Capitol Dome.
The next one is religion and spirituality. Gandhi's March to the Sea, Harriet Tubman's brave perseverance through the Underground Railroad were both born out of their own religious convictions. I can think growing up Lutheran of a profound experience I had in the foot washing ceremony that we would do at youth group and realizing the call of servanthood being centered. And now transitioning into my adult life as a Unitarian, slowing down and reading the transcendent poetry of Rumi and kind of feeling that crackling connection that he gets at within kind of those lines and really centering into that deep sense of connectedness that we feel in one's shared religion or spirituality is really getting at here with this eighth wonder.
Birth and death. If you've ever been there at the birth of a baby, and for me, I remember being there when my grandfather took his last breath, surrounded by loved ones. Really, that moment of what's so significant of birth and death.
And then lastly, but certainly not least, the concept of epiphany. Moments when we suddenly understand and see the essential true connectedness of life. And the book has a wonderful quote, actually one of their stars in it is Charles Darwin, who they did a wonderful job of profiling, and I'll just kind of talk through this quote from Darwin from The Origin of Species. Here, I started to stand for Mindy. Whilst this planet has gone cycling on according to the fixed law of gravity from so simple a beginning, endless forms, most beautiful and most wonderful have been and are being evolved. And this came to him actually on a beach in Chile, seeing the interconnected vines and flowers and birds and the entire ecosystem in his journal kind of helped him reach into that deepest systems thinking, that sense of connectedness that enables all of us in those epiphany moments to see the systems underlying the wonders of life and to be able to locate our own relation to them. So what I'd like you to do is just close your eyes for a moment and join me to think about when you have found awe. And breathe into that and continue to center yourself in that. And over lunch, if you are willing, I think this would be a really powerful conversation to have at your table. I really would invite all of us to be able to bring that experience and hear from each other, to be able to share that as one of our parting ways that we can learn from and be buoyed by each other. And so before we head out to lunch and to our lives after this, you know, we've said this prior to this in prior conferences before closing, that if we can live at least sometimes in a state of wonder, it can help sustain us through the hardships. I'll get that on. You can actually disclose it. We're good. Go. It can sustain us through the hardships and the grief that the unfolding climate chaos that we are seeing really bring up for us. And what Dasher suggests in this book is that awe is something freely available to us every day. And I'd just like to close today with what he wrote actually in the introduction to this book, because I think it's such a call to all of us to take this on. Awe is the emotion we experience when we encounter vast mysteries that we don't understand. Why, though, would I recommend that you find happiness in an emotion that is so fleeting and evanescent? A feeling so elusive that it resists simple description, that requires the unexpected and moves us towards mystery and the unknown rather than what is certain and easy. Well, because we can find awe anywhere and everywhere, because doing so doesn't require money or the burning of fossil fuels or even much time. Our research suggests that just a couple of minutes a day will do, because we have a basic need for awe wired into our brains and our bodies. Finding awe is easy if we just take a moment and wonder, because all of us, no matter what our background, can find our own meaningful path to awe. And because brief moments of awe are as good for your mind and body as anything else you might do to charge up and restore and rejuvenate one's spirit. So this is our invitation to you. In our shared year ahead, with all of its ups and downs, the slings and arrows, the celebrations, successes and failures that we will surely endure together, make time for awe. Find those quiet moments in your days where you can tap into any one of those 8 wonders that we have freely available to us. And don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with us, with each other, with the other people in your life, so you can continue to ripple out and spark that joy that you're already creating in your communities. Thank you for warming our hearts this entire weekend by being together. And we look forward to another amazing regional conference next year and all the shared work in between now and then. Thank you, everyone.